Coming up next, we're going to break down everything Monaco as well as our Twitter question of the week. Will Gasly replace Ocon at Alpine? Coming up next. Hey guys, welcome into another edition of the F1 Starting Grid. On behalf of Chaz Day, I'm Brock Young, welcoming you into another unique insight into Formula One. Before we go any further, please like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on Twitter, as well as Facebook, @FormOfRacing, and email us, theformofracing@gmail.com, for any topic you'd like for us to cover. Chaz, let me get right into this, man. I'm going to ask you right off the bat, what is your first impression from Monaco this past weekend?
I'm going to be honest. I don't have a unique take here. I think I'm just as interested and excited and impressed as everybody else about what that podium looked like. I mean, you got three guys who, two of which I'll say haven't seen the podium this season. And three guys who, I mean, the average age was 23 years old. I mean, that's just, you feel like you're looking at the future a little bit. It was pretty fun to see.
Absolutely. In fact, let's break down that podium right quick for you. In fact, all the standings for Monaco, we have Max coming in first at 1:38 seconds, followed by Carlos right behind him in the Ferrari, just under 9 seconds. Lando under 20 seconds with a McLaren in third. And fourth, we have Sergio Perez in the Red Bull. 20 seconds, then followed by Sebastian in fifth, Gasly in sixth, Hamilton in the Mercedes in seventh, eighth is the Aston Martin of Lance Stroll, Esteban Ocon in ninth with the Alpine, and 10th we have Giovinazzi with the Alfa Romeo. That's pretty unique to see. As well as 11th, we also have the Alfa Romeo of Kimi Raikkonen. Number 12, we have 12th and Daniel Ricciardo in the McLaren. 13th, we have Fernando Alonso in the Alpine. George Russell coming in 14th with the Williams, and the other Williams following right behind him. In 15th, Yuki Tsunoda in the AlphaTauri Honda. In 16th, 17th, and 18th of the Haas's of actually Mazepin finished on top of Schumacher for the first time this year, finishing 17th, followed by Schumacher 18th, and 19th and 20th we have Bottas and Leclerc, both D and F, and we'll get into that here in a minute. But the standings right now, as far as drivers, we have Max.
That's where it gets interesting.
Yes, sir. I love this. Max is actually in first by 4 points over Lewis Hamilton, 105 to 101, followed by Lando Norris. And this is all close from 5 to, I think, 7th right here is Lando Norris, 56 points. Bottas, 47 points, 44 points for Perez. Leclerc with 40, 38 with Carlos Sainz, 38 points. And number 8, we have Daniel Ricciardo, 24. Pierre Gasly, 16. Ocon, 12 points. Vettel have 10 points. Stroll, his teammate, has 9 points. Alonso has 5 points. Yuki Tsunoda has 2 points. Giovinazzi has 1 point, of course. And 16, we have Kimi, Russell, Latifi, Schumacher, and Mazepin all at 0. And the standings for the constructors, we have Red Bull at 10. I love this. 149 to Mercedes 148. 1 point separates the two. Followed by McLaren, 80 points. Ferrari at 78 points. 2 points separate those two. And drop all the way down to 5th. We have Aston Martin with 19 points. AlphaTauri Honda, 18. Alpine with 17 points. Alfa Romeo with 1 point, and Williams and Haas 9th and 10th with 0 points. That is a very tight race between 1st and 2nd, as well as 3rd and 4th. This is getting really, really interesting. But one thing I want to discuss first is actually the qualifying, which sets up the race for Monaco.
Qualifying.
Charles Leclerc is wrecked on the final lap of the final qualifying of Q3. You had Carlos, Max, and Valtteri all on the flying lap, all upset with him because of his wreck.
He didn't try to wreck.
Well, that's what we talked. Our future friend of ours, Daniel, him and I got in a discussion about this. and we saw this all on Twitter too. It's like, do you think you wreck your car, costing a grid penalty, and also possibly your life, injury to yourself,
Especially at Monaco.
especially at Monaco, just to save pole position? I don't think he did that on purpose, honestly.
No, and I mean, I think if we saw anything yesterday, we saw that Ferrari had real pace, right? I think if it wasn't a situation where, they got a fast lap or they got the fastest lap that was able to, that someone was able to put down, and then they just wanted to ruin it for everybody else. That sounds like something that maybe it would be gamesmanship. It'd be some pretty hardcore gamesmanship. But I mean, he literally, if you watch the replay in slow motion, he just barely clipped that front right tire. So it clearly wasn't on purpose. And again, like I said, clearly Ferrari had some real pace because during the race they came in second.
Yeah.
Right.
Now I was going to say this about another topic here, but Monaco itself stands alone from any other race on the calendar, simply because you see certain teams, certain drivers finish higher than they would expect in other races, simply because Monaco is just a different beast altogether. Case in point, I mean, I think Carlos is a really good driver, but him finishing in second is just a testament to what Monaco is, basically. Now, I gotta say this about Charles here. He posted this on Twitter on Monday. He said, "Sunday still hurts, but there's a lot that we can be happy about. After a tough 2020, to be back in front of the grid and scoring a podium with Charles is a great reward for everyone's hard work. Monaco, I love you, and hopefully one day you love me back. We'll keep on pushing." And also, this was also said about the commentators said this as well. With him not even competing, he could do like Kimi Raikkonen and go on his yacht. He lives right there. He's from Monaco. He still has a house there in Monaco. I mean, he could be having a beer in his apartment or whatever. But he was down there celebrating with his team and with Carlos finishing in second on that grid. That's saying something right there, at least character-wise,
Yeah, it's ridiculous to suggest anything other than he loves racing and he loves to get out there and compete. Leclerc has shown himself to be an absolute class act when it comes to the track, and he's the most, to me, he is the most like Hamilton in his demeanor and his disposition. He is just even. He's cool, especially in interviews. He answers questions with a lot of composure. So I mean, it's ridiculous to suggest anything other than, he made a mistake, and especially in a home race, right? Like that's when you don't want to take chances. You just want to, especially in a home race, especially if your home race happens to be freaking Monaco. That's when you don't want to take risks with anything, because you just want to hopefully get, come through in the first spot in qualifying and have a smooth sailing into a race win. So yeah, disappointed for him, as much as I can't stand Ferrari at the moment. These last couple of years, I mean, Binotto is a joke to me. I'm not really a fan of him at all, but yeah, I mean, I'm a huge Charles Leclerc fan, and he's a very classy guy, and he's the future of racing, in my opinion. So it is disappointing for him as a race fan.
Yeah. Well, let's switch gears here for a minute. You talked about Lewis Hamilton. Let's talk about, I'm just going to call them hiccups over the weekend, because I think Mercedes will be back. I mean, Toto will find a way. But let's first talk about Lewis Hamilton and his pace in Monaco. Now, granted, said before, he won most out of the current grid with 3, but normally he just can't find that rhythm correctly, in Monaco. I saw something like right after the race, he did a press conference or talked to reporters, in the kind of, not really take a little dig at his team, basically his mechanics, but he walked it back a little bit afterwards, in the press room. But what do you see out of Lewis Hamilton this past weekend? As far as you said before, they're going to be back. I mean, if there's a track that favors both Mercedes and Red Bull at the same time, it's the streets of Baku. So we can see something then. But, and granted, they'll be back. But what is your take on Lewis Hamilton over the weekend there, Chaz?
I mean, I feel the way everyone feels. I feel like they'll definitely make it back. Mercedes was in interesting form. I mean, if it kind of felt like Mercedes and Ferrari did a little bit of a flip-flop on just, from a performance perspective, because, we got the only car that they did have finished in, seventh place?
Yeah.
Lewis finished in seventh. And then obviously there was if we're talking about hiccups, the freaking Bottas debacle. That's what I'm going to call it. That was, I don't know. And the announcer said it too. Like, that's not the first time that this has happened with that front right tire. So I don't know what it is, but either way, when it comes to Lewis specifically, though, I don't know what it is. I'm not really sure. I'm trying to see where he ended up in previous Monaco races. Do we have that?
Well, said before, the last 2019 he finished. That's the last time they had Monaco. He won it. But other than that, I think the normal pace for him is between 5th and 7th on average at Monaco. He won it in 2008, 16, and 19. Those are the 3 years he won it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he finished on the podium, and so he won it in 19, finished on the podium in 18. And then in 2017, he may not have finished. Oh, no, he finished in 14th. So, yeah, he doesn't have a super strong history there, to be honest. I don't know what it is. I mean, he also lives in Monaco, by the way. So Daniel Riccardo also lives in Monaco. It's a very, very popular place for racers. So yeah, I don't know what exactly it is, but hopefully we can just put Monaco behind us and move on.
Excuse me. Before we do that, though, we got to talk about that tire debacle.
Do we have to?
Well, kind of, sort of, because Toto Wolff came out and said that this was Bottas's fault for not lining correctly in that position for them to take.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow. So his tires weren't completely straight.
Well, I don't think the car itself is completely straight. That's what he said. He wasn't lined up correctly in the box there. However, my argument, of course, Toto Wolff knows more than I do, knows more than both of us put together, possibly. But if he could get the other 3 tires off, why can't you get the 4th one? I mean, it's one of these mysteries. I mean, I understand that you coming in there, you're in a hurry, just like the engineers go in there and jack it, but try to get it off, and they just ruin the nut on it, so he can't get it off. In fact, it was also reported that Mercedes borrowed some hammers from Ferrari, tried to get it off before they left Monaco.
Wow, and they still couldn't get it off.
Still couldn't get it off, so they had to, ship it over to their facility in England to get it off. So,
wow.
So that car is now going directly to Baku. It's going from Monaco up to England and back over to Baku.
That's literally like when that person puts the jar too tight, the top of the jar, and you can't get it off. Wow, I didn't know all that about borrowing a hammer from Ferrari to try to get it off and still not being able to. Yeah, it was an actual catastrophe. I felt pretty bad for Bottas too. Obviously, as a Mercedes fan, it sucks to see that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I When Toto says that it's Bottas's fault, obviously I think it's Bottas's fault. I think most things are probably Bottas's fault. Global warming, I'm gonna blame Alfie Bottas because he is not living up to his potential, but or just underperforming the car. But anyways, yeah, I think we should just move on, man. Like that was a so embarrassing for Mercedes, and if I had to watch it again, I would.
Yeah, I know it's not a Mercedes track by all stretch of the means. However,
Very off-like.
Let's talk about something of good news, and that's McLaren. This is their first podium at Monaco since Jenson Button in 2011.
Wow.
10 years.
Wow.
And it was by Lando Norris there. And granted, he was about 19 and a half seconds away from the lead, but and Perez was right there, right next to him, trying to get that spot. But this is his second podium of the year. And
we're big Lando Norris fans here.
Yes.
We're all big Norris fans.
We are. In fact, I was thinking about buying that merch, some of that the hoodie or the polo shirt.
You know what? I don't know that I would buy Norris specific merch only because I don't know how long he'll be there. But I am, and actually I don't love like specific driver merch as much as like team stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But he does make me want to buy McLaren merch though. I mean, I wouldn't buy it just for Riccardo, but
no, yeah.
Having Norris there, it definitely makes the team more likable.
I was thinking about buying the classic throwback from Monaco merch that they had out.
Oh, I haven't seen that. This is McLaren put it out?
Yeah, about a week or so ago, right before Monaco, and it looks really good.
Let's see this stuff. I see a Hawaiian button-down shirt.
I didn't even see that. I saw a polo shirt, but unless they took it down already. But
if it's anything close to what that car is,
it is.
Oh, I gotta find this because I'm going to buy. It's just gonna have it. I'm gonna buy it.
Man on a mission. I love it. But one side of the garage did well. The other one did not. In fact, that quote I did earlier by Monaco itself stands by itself as far as some, you see some drivers move that normally don't do well, but they do well in Monaco. This driver won in Monaco before, but he finished in 12th. What happened to Danny Ricciardo over the weekend?
Oh, Danny. No, Daniel Ricciardo is he's seriously struggling this season, and I was actually looking at the driver standings
Mm-hmm.
and just how bad it is for Daniel Ricciardo. I mean, when you have a much younger driver who is in third in the championship in the same car that you're in, and you are in eighth, it's not a very good showing for you at all. He has less than half the points of his counterpart. I mean, he is to date, he is having an absolutely abysmal season because, I mean, bad is not measured by just good and bad. Bad is measured against your potential, right? So a really bad season for Mercedes would be coming in second. Like they would be everyone would be walking around the entire factory with their head down. For everybody from the engineers to the drivers to like people who clean the bathrooms, everybody would just be like defunct if they came in second, right? People would be suicidal if they came in third. So bad is measured by what you're capable of. Man,
Yep.
Daniel Ricciardo is having a terrible, worse than bad season right now.
He did finish higher than Norris in, was it Spain? That's the only race, though.
Norris has out qualified him in uh, every qualifying, right? But he did come 2 spots ahead of him in Spain. Yeah, Ricciardo came in 6th, and Norris was in 8th. So
I agree with you. Agree with you too. There. I mean, you got Norris in 3rd, Gasly. I'm sorry. Ricciardo in 8th, and the constructors, they're right neck and neck with Ferrari. You know, only 2 points separate. So you need a good second driver to help push that up. I mean, granted, they probably not should be nowhere close to Mercedes and Red Bull, but compared to the past couple of seasons, with Lando Norris and Ricciardo's knowledge, they should be like alone in 3rd by themselves. But and that's also a little testament to Ferrari. I'm a Ferrari fan. I know you're not, so I got to give my boys some credit here. Just being 2 points behind McLaren right now, even with constructors, even with Leclerc not even finishing, not even starting in Monaco. You know.
No, they're definitely not in the worst possible shape. I just I don't know. Honestly, after this qualifying, it was so surprising to me that I'm not even sure what to expect from Ferrari going forward. I mean, you as a fan, like what do you expect? We literally watched them come in, between 4th and 8th place for the whole beginning part of this season, and then all of a sudden they're at the top, and presumably would have had 2 drivers on the podium. I mean, what do you make of this?
Was said before. I hate to keep on harping on this, but Monaco is a different beast. The real test will come in Baku.
Okay. So you're not putting a lot of merit behind it.
Not right now. I mean, what you saw in Spain, what you saw in Portugal, also in the season opener from them, that's a pretty good testament. But they're still building, they're still testing their vehicle, so right now they're still getting ready for 2022. Their new engine, new power unit over there, but at the same time they're still trying to make something of 2021. Unlike some other teams, we're going to remain nameless, but no, I feel that they're not back, but they're making strides. Like nothing before. As Charles Leclerc said, I mean, it's like they're not. To see them together like that, see unity like that on the podium, will that come every single race this season? No, but I see things better than they were last season. And that's to your point. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about this same subject. Yes, Ferrari is expected to be a winner every single time. From the very beginning, they're groomed to be a winner in Formula One. But at a dismal 2020 they had. Yes, give them a gold star if you want to, but just to see improvements from them, being that close out of 3rd, that's where their boss wants to be, right out of 3rd place for the season. Okay. That's a real testament of what they could be and what they could be doing in 2022 as well. So we'll wait and see on that.
Yeah, I mean, what was your reaction to qualifying? I know I was teasing you guys a little bit and saying that you shouldn't really expect too much, because when the actually I was teasing you guys on Thursday once those results kind of came back. I was like, you guys shouldn't expect too much, but qualifying then was honestly, it was a surprise for me. I was like, okay, well, we'll see what happens. But on race day when, producing a second place result is not nothing, right? It doesn't matter what race it is. The scoreboard in the scored books or the record books or whatever aren't going to remember, all the details of what race it was, right? Like,
no, actually, that little text you sent us,
yeah,
I posted that to Twitter.
yeah.
So everybody go check that out and see. I was like, Lord, don't give me hope. Don't give me hope, please. No, I'm happy for them though, but I said this too. If there's a track that favors both Mercedes and Red Bull, you could throw Ferrari in there as well, because they've been doing pretty well on Baku as well. So we throw all those, and let's see how McLaren does as well with Norris. Norris was on that track. I mean, we'll talk about this more next week, but Baku has only been around this is going to be the 4th season for it.
Right.
So it's relatively new in some respects. So, but yet feels like it's been on the calendar for years on end.
Yeah, it feels familiar already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your favorite driver, and no, not Mazepin. And this is, I think, goes back to my point, and I'm going to get probably some people upset with me that Monaco is just a different beast, is how Vettel finished in 5th. This is the highest he's finished. I mean, this is the only points he's finished so far in the season.
Yeah.
Other than, I mean, he's been either DNFing or not DNFing, but finished outside the top 10, not scoring any points.
Yeah, he just hasn't been scoring points.
Stroll's been the only one that's been carrying the team so far up to this point, but now all of a sudden he scores points. He's just 1 point ahead of Stroll.
Yeah, I mean, Stroll's a great driver.
Yeah,
said no one ever. But so I mean, what do you think about? I mean, about Vettel coming in 5th? Do you feel like it says anything about Aston Martin? I know you were super bullish on them early in the season, just because they're coming in with that Mercedes 2020 car, right?
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts here? Is this an indication of something?
No, I don't think so. Said before, we got to wait for Baku and see how. If he finishes in the top 10, then yeah. I mean, I see some changes going on in Aston Martin, but for me, Monaco is just a one-off race. I tell you what I'm most surprised about over the weekend, and just them in general, is the Alfa Romeo. They've been consistent throughout the season so far. Granted, they have not finished points other than this past weekend with Giovinazzi. However, you see them on top of Haas, on top of Williams, even on top of Yuki, sometimes on top of Aston Martin, finishing between 11th, 15th around their consistency. And they're just trying to get better and better. If there's one team other than Ferrari that I see that's, being consistent and trying to get better week by week, is Alfa Romeo. Do you see the same thing, or you see something a little different there, Chaz?
Well, I think they got a lot on the line, right? Like, Papa Stroll's got a lot of cash invested in making sure that this team works. Mm-hmm. From what I've seen, he is very much like it's always cool because every F1 team is a business, obviously, but a lot of them run differently. So, like, Ferrari operates differently from a Haas, for example.
Yeah.
Some of the lower tier teams, although they are definitely businesses, and all F1 teams are, there's a lot more leeway when it comes to these bigger teams. So they do things that wind up being, sorry, I got a puppy out here. So they wind up doing things that are really just like for, they're business. They're not necessarily business moves. They're more like branding plays. Whereas when you have a team like Aston Martin that was, just had hundreds of millions of dollars pumped into it to make it work. It's a brand new team, brand new sponsor. they got to make it work, and they got to make it work quickly. They don't have a few years to figure it out. I almost feel like that's one of the reasons why Ferrari has struggled for as long as it has, because honestly, they haven't had to figure it out. They haven't had to. Just haven't had that pressure because Ferrari fans aren't going anywhere, because Ferrari fans aren't really based on whether Ferrari's winning or not. They're like Lakers fans or like Celtics fans, or I mean, they're fans because they're fans, not necessarily because they're winning, right? Aston Martin has to earn their fans, and so them getting, race after race, I think it's coming out of necessity, and it's great to watch.
Well, before we move on to the Twitter question of the week, there's one more piece. Well, that could probably be thrown into Monaco as well, but our standings after Monaco. Sorry, Chaz, he had a big goose egg over the weekend. So Mike has overtaken you by 1 point.
Oh, he's pulled a Verstappen.
Yes, he did. He is 180. It is 188 to 187, and I move up to 144.
Mike, I can't believe he would do that on Black History Month. Wow.
If we had Mike's idea where if you had at least one person on the podium, probably not that same position, but at least have one person on the podium get 1 point or a couple points.
It'd be a little closer, yeah.
In fact, you probably taking the lead if that was the case, but
yeah, I thought it was a terrible idea until you just told me that. The last few weeks, I've been like, Mike, shut up. This is a terrible idea. Now I'm like, you know what? I think he's got something.
Well, let's discuss that next week when Mike comes back.
We'll see how I do in Baku, and then we'll decide.
Well, the Twitter question of the week is: will Gasly replace Ocon at Alpine? 77 to 23% said no. In fact, the quote right now I'm going to use is from Mo. You can follow him on Twitter at Australia_2013, and he says if anyone would be Alonso, that would be replaced, but he cannot see any changes happening until 2023, though.
Yeah.
After this past weekend, granted, Gasly did finish on top of Ocon in Monaco. Standing-wise, it is very close. Pierre Gasly has a 4-point lead over Ocon, but it said right before Monaco that the president of Alpine Formula One really likes Ocon and they want to stick with him. So, I mean, granted, both Gasly and Ocon are French drivers.
Right.
So either way, they'll be happy. But I think I agree with him. I mean, Ocon's a good fit. He likes it there, even though he is a Mercedes reserve driver too, just like Russell. So he can move up as well in the Mercedes seat, but he's very happy over there in Alpine for the time being. But your take on this, Chaz? What do you see?
Ocon's tough. He's tough to judge because I'm not sure whether he's actually a good driver or not. I mean, I've liked him since like Force India, those Force India days. That's when I kind of decided, okay, he's a good driver for sure, but I'm not sure how good he actually is. Like if he found himself on a top tier team, I still don't know that he would be much better than he's shown himself to be in a middle tier team. Mm-hmm. So, I think it's an interesting question to ask, but I'm with our Twitter responder. I think that a lot of the changes that we're talking about probably won't happen until 2023. I think a lot of the teams are going to try to keep their current lineup and keep things as streamlined as possible, as simple as possible, as predictable as possible, because 2022 is going to be a very unpredictable year.
Oh, God, yes. I don't love it. Absolutely love it. But
yep.
And we could talk about this later on, but towards the end of the season as well as we get into that season of who moves where and stuff like that. But what about this? I mean, there's always rumor where Gasly is going to go, because this is his last year on his contract with AlphaTauri. Would he resign with AlphaTauri? because I know he wants that Red Bull seat still, even though Christian Horner pretty much said no. But
did he? Because I haven't been following his story too much. What's the deal with him in Red Bull?
he was with Red Bull for half a season, but they replaced him with Albon.
Right, but I mean, what's the deal today? I mean,
well, this was back when.
this was
this wasn't lately. So, but granted, if you ask Christian Horner today, would Gasly be in that seat again? He probably won't answer that question, but he said this in the past, like last year sometime, that Gasly will not go back in that Red Bull seat.
Which I think that's really unfair, to be honest, because they gave him a half of a season to perform equal or better to what Albon wound up doing anyways, right? Mm-hmm. So to not give him another shot is kind of it's unfair, man. It really is. I think he's done a solid job at AlphaTauri. Not a great job, but a solid job. I think the worst part about it for Gasly, and we've beat this dead horse a lot, but the worst part for him is really the damage to his reputation. Getting demoted to a second-tier team from a first-tier team does not look good for any team trying to hire you, right? And so if there was any team that was going to, first-tier team that was going to hire him back, it would have to be Red Bull because nobody else would take him.
Absolutely.
So the worst part for him is really just that damage to his reputation, and I think they really didn't do him fair there.
Well, if you look at the Drive to Survive series, I saw like a couple times he was trying to do he was playing the simulator, and even with AlphaTauri, I think Toro Rosso at the time, honestly, he picked Red Bull as his team because he said that's what he always wanted to be, is race for Red Bull.
Yeah.
And also, pressures on Perez right now. Granted, he is fifth right now. He only has a 1-year contract with Red Bull. So the speculation mill is still out on Perez, Gasly, everybody right now. The only one that's pretty much signed, which is no one's really signed. Anything can happen. Right. You got Norris that signed through 2023 with McLaren, Bottas through next year with Mercedes.
Verstappen's through the next few years. I think he's through 2024.
And Leclerc also with a couple years left with Ferrari.
Yeah.
So we shall see. But it's going to be interesting. In fact,
is Gasly a good driver?
He's a decent driver.
Yeah.
He's he's right there with Ocon. I think both him and Ocon are pretty much par. If you put them in Mercedes, I think they'll finish right neck and neck with one another, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, they're solid F1 drivers.
Yeah. They're really good F1 drivers. I think they'll probably make a great number 2 if they go to Mercedes, even though if you give him that chance again, I think it will help Verstappen better.
Speaking of Mercedes, I think we need to talk more about what would happen if Norris went head-to-head with our boy Hamilton. This guy is third place in a McLaren, bruh.
Yeah. Granted, it's 56 points, but he is ahead of Bottas, though.
Yeah, he is ahead of he's ahead of Bottas in a McLaren. So if he actually had that second seat, would he be putting some real pressure on Hamilton?
But that's a good question too in itself. Even though McLaren has a Mercedes engine, they're not necessarily a second-tier team to Mercedes.
Yeah, their own. They're a manufacturer. They build their own chassis and everything.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're not on the line with Williams or Aston Martin or anything like that. Which honestly, we had this discussion too. I wish Williams would separate themselves and be their own people, but understand, money situation, they need the support as much as possible. But Hamilton versus Norris. God, man, you got me right there. I don't know.
And an even more interesting question is, who would be the number one driver?
If Toto Wolff is in charge of Mercedes, which he is, I still think he will put Hamilton number one and Norris number two, at least until Norris can prove himself in that Mercedes.
Norris, I mean, as far and number one versus number one is always where the majority of resources go. Like, that's what we're really asking, is who would get the majority of resources. Resources being attention, right, and effort. We're talking about a 35-year-old driver. Is Hamilton 35 or 36? I don't remember.
I think 36. I could be wrong.
So we're talking about a 36-year-old driver versus a 21-year-old driver, right? This is like, it's kind of like the Red Bull Verstappen situation, right? Riccardo was a very good driver, but you just have a much younger driver who also has a lot of potential. And I don't know. And when that second driver is Lando freaking Norris, you know, I don't know where you know, who would actually be number one. Not who they say, because obviously they would say, you know, we treat our drivers the same, we let them drive, and you know, give them the same car, all that. But yeah, I mean, so you feel like Hamilton would still be the number one driver if Norris next year went to Mercedes?
Right, I would say that.
Okay.
That, to me, said before, Norris has to prove himself in that situation in order to move up into that first tier seat. I mean, granted, he's proven himself right now in the McLaren, but I mean, the resources have already been behind Hamilton for years. So, and
Yeah.
I mean, how many more years Hamilton's going to race anyway?
Not very much. That's why I don't think that resources would go to him.
Would you lead us to the Twitter question of this week coming up? Who will win the championship first? Will it be Lando Norris or Charles Leclerc? I think that's going to be our closest Twitter question of the week so far.
Question.
And I wish Mike was here. I guess he could gloat next week. So.
Yeah, he can gloat over his little 1 point. He'll do well to relish it, hold on to it, because I'm coming back. Now, he did have his quote of the weekend. Did you see it?
Something about Mazepin there.
His quote of the week is, "To Mazepin, F1 is a form of martial arts." I don't know who said that.
I don't know either. I saw something on Twitter as well that that his pit crew's messing with him in Monaco. It's like they're giving him some like type of instructions to go to 56, and something like that. He came back and said, "Quit effing with me. This is Monaco." But by the way, he did finish higher than Schumacher, though. First time this year.
Okay. All right. Well, Mazepin is he's on the come up. You bullish on Mazepin?
Was that?
I said, are you bullish on him? He came in 17th. I mean, that's gotta count for something.
I'm going to use my cop-out answer for all this show. Is I'm going away from Baku. I
mean, he now this is gonna get you. Mazepin, this is a fact a lot of people aren't talking about, but I think they really should. In Monaco this year, Mazepin finished ahead of Leclerc and Bottas. So,
yeah. I mean, If you want to call a spade, I mean, yeah, I mean, he did finish. I mean,
against Leclerc, ahead of Leclerc and Bottas. So, yeah, I don't know. He's got a bright future. I mean, most of it has to do with the fact that he will never want for anything in his entire life because his dad is more wealthy than you could imagine. But you know, yeah, he had a 17th place finish. So.
by the way, a one-off for you right now. Out of the the money drivers, you have Latifi, you have Mazepin, and you have Stroll. I think Stroll is the best driver of the three.
Yeah.
Granted, he does have a better car behind him. However, overall, I think he's a stronger driver.
It's hard to say how good Nicholas Latifi is, to be honest. I mean, that he's in a Williams, so that's really tough. But yeah, and I don't know. I'm not too familiar with his career. I mean, did he drive Formula 2?
I'm not too sure. In fact, that's what I'm learning about now, more Formula 2, Formula 3 drivers, and just getting deeper into that field, so we know what to expect coming up as well.
Right.
But I'm not too sure. I'm not, out of all the drivers right now, that's the least driver I know about.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's definitely one of those money drivers. He brings a lot of money in. I don't know exactly why. Maybe that's something worth looking into. But yeah, it's hard to get a gauge on him. Being a Williams driver, it's just tough.
Yeah. Well, that's going to do it for us this week. But join us next time. In the meantime, follow us on Twitter @FormerRacing. We got a new Twitter question right now. Who will win the championship first? Will it be Norris or will it be Leclerc? So make sure you vote on that. Follow us on Facebook @FormerRacing. Drop us a line on email, theformerracing@gmail.com. Give us a topic you'd like us to discuss on here. Check out our other videos as well as like, share, and subscribe so we can grow our channel and give you more and more content for you. But in the meantime, we'll see you next time right here on the F1 Starting Grid.